Hi, welcome to This Week at Ames. I'm Susan Guiazda. On today's show, we'll check in with the new Animal Control Supervisor. My guest today is Ron Edwards, Animal Control Supervisor. Ron, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, you're relatively new to Ames, and you came here in the summer. Tell us a little bit about the route you took to get to this community.
Well, I came from California. Lived my entire life in California, about half an hour from downtown Los Angeles. So Ames is a very different community, and loving every minute of it. It's a great community, and I'm really meeting a lot of people, and just have found so many people that are just so friendly and so welcoming since I've been here. Not just people in this city, but people that I meet in the street, just really genuine and very happy to say hi to somebody. It's just a great feeling.
Great. You have a long history in animal sheltering and control. Tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, I've been working in animal shelters for about 28 years now. It's been a great career. My passion in life is animals, and I wanted to be a vet. And when I started working at a shelter in California, when I was in high school, I soon realized that I really wanted to help homeless animals. I felt that veterinarians, the pets that went to vet offices, were fortunate enough to have someone caring for them. And really the homeless animals at the shelter didn't have anybody to speak for them, so I really wanted that person to be me. So 28 years later, here I am, and I've had all different positions in animal shelters, from director positions, animal control officer, working in the kennels, and just love being around the animals and helping people with the animals.
And you seem to have a real hands-on approach. You talk about all the different things you do with animals. You are sort of start to finish.
Absolutely. You know, it's just, again, it's my passion. It's in my blood. It's in my heart. And anything that I can do to help people. And when those issues with animals, that just really makes me feel good inside, and just reminds me that I really made the right decision in my career path, and just couldn't be happier that I'm here in Ames.
Now, the Ames Animal Shelter is probably a little bit smaller than the shelters that you've worked with in the past.
It is a small shelter, and in a lot of ways that's really a good thing. What it does, it allows us to get to know the animals better, so it's more a one-on-one. So if we talk about Climber, a special kitty that we have right now, we really get to know Climber and Climber's personality. So when we have someone coming into the shelter to adopt, we can make a good match with them. If they're looking for a lap cat, you know, Climber may not be the one. He's a pretty active kitty. So we want to make a good match with potential adopters, and that's really something that we do well at the Ames Animal Shelter.
Well, what always surprises me is it's not just cats and dogs. Every so often I'll see a different kind of animal on your website.
Yes, actually we received a rat last night. The owner had moved and left the rat behind, so we're now caring for the rat, and we'll soon be finding a home for the rat. So rabbits, rats, mice, pretty much anything, you know, iguanas, different types of animals come through the door, and we're going to provide the same care and love that we do to all the animals at the shelter, not just the dogs and cats.
And those are the domesticated animals. Now, another part of your job is dealing with when wildlife and humans kind of interact in a not so positive way.
Yes. Yeah, wildlife is definitely a challenge. There's, you know, here in Ames, being more of a rural area, there's a lot of wildlife that we see, from coyotes to deer, raccoons, possums, several different types of animals, and we really try to do as much as we can to get people to coexist with these animals. We will respond to animals that appear to be ill, injured, that are causing a nuisance if they're stuck in window wells, stuck in cars, things like that. We absolutely respond to that, but we really try to get people to coexist. These animals are here every night, and you just may happen to see it one time, and if you just let it go on about its way, you may not see it again. But they're out there, and there's lots of good information on different websites, and I would encourage viewers to look at that and really figure out, you know, how to coexist with those animals. But call us if you want any additional information at the shelter, and we'll be happy to provide information and assist as needed.
So you've been here since August. Have you been on a wildlife call that was unusual to you just because of your coming here from another part of the United States?
Well, you know, we in downtown Los Angeles, we didn't have a lot of beavers, actually no beavers, so we're dealing with some beaver issues right now in one of the parts of the community. So that's really been a learning experience for me, and I've done a lot of reading and on them, and again, looking at the internet and seeing what's out there. So kind of dealing with those. But other than that, there's pretty much all the same type of wildlife that that we've seen in different parts of the agencies that I've worked for that we see here in Ames.
Now, you mentioned that the wildlife might be around all the time, but you just might happen to see it. I know in the winter, the deer get a lot more visible. People start seeing them more often. We have to watch for deer darting out into traffic.
Yes.
That never ends well for a deer. And just other kinds of wildlife things we need to be aware of.
Sure.
Not feeding the deer is always a big one.
Absolutely. You don't want to feed any kind of wildlife that's out there. You're just encouraging that. And even when you're doing the bird feeders and such, you want to be careful because the scraps that are left behind are often encouraging other types of wildlife. So if you have a lot of bird feeders and there's raccoons or possums are around, or mice or rats, a lot of times that's because they're eating the leftovers from the birds. So you want to make sure you get appropriate containers and clean that up the best that you can to not encourage the wildlife to be hanging around.
Mm-hmm. So the weather is obviously taking a turn. It's much colder now. Much more concern for abandoned animals at this time of year, for the domesticated animals.
Sure. Yeah, it's the weather is so cold here. We definitely want to encourage people to keep their pets indoors. It's not safe for pets to be outdoors. It is actually a law here in Ames that cats and dogs are required to be indoors, your domestic animals. But when they're left behind and they don't have the resources they need, the food, the water that they need, it's so important to make sure that they don't have a bucket of ice. They're not going to lick ice. You need to make sure they have fresh water that's not frozen. Make sure they have the food so they can keep the body heat up. Otherwise, it's going to end in a real sad situation. And if you see anything, you see pets that are outdoors that don't have access to shelter and food and water, give us a call at the shelter. We'll be happy to go out there and look into that and make sure that the animals are safe and they are being cared for by someone.
Now, throughout the winter, you'll see a lot of people out walking their dogs. Great exercise for both the owner and the pet. What are the rules when you walk your dog about waste disposal?
Well, you have to pick that up. It's very, very important that you pick that up. And that's all year round. You need to make sure that that's picked up. So have those bags with you. Pick it up. It's not only required by law, it's being kind to your neighbors and being safe. You don't want someone to trip in that, and not that it's unsafe and gross.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like you said, it's simply being kind to other people who may not have noticed where they're stepping. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So are you having a lot of animals right now? Do you see a lot at the shelter?
Our dog population is fairly small. We have about 4 dogs right now for adoption. And cats, we tend to be a little bit high right now. This is the time of the year when our cat population typically is lower. We don't see many kittens at this time. They're usually spring babies. Mm-hmm. But right now we do have quite a few cats. We're close to 32 cats right now. And that
sounds like a lot.
That is a lot of cats right now. So we're really encouraging adopters to come down, take a look at what we have. We have so many wonderful cats, great personalities, same with the dogs. And we have one of every type. We have the very, very active ones. We have the lap kitties that will just sit in your lap, maybe a senior citizen's looking for something to sit down and watch your show with and have a cat in the lap. That's a great thing.
Especially when it's cold. They're nice and warm.
Absolutely. Helps to keep you warm.
Well, Ron, thanks for stopping by and talking to us. I'm sure throughout the next year, through 2014, we'll see a lot more of you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, if you're doing your holiday shopping, don't forget that the Ames Parks and Recreation Department offers a gift card. Those gift cards can be in any denomination and can be used to pay for an Ames Park and Recreation class. Also remember, the Furman Aquatic Center passes are on sale. You can get a 20% discount if you're renewing a pass, or a 10% discount if you are a new Furman purchaser. Well, that's our show for today. Thanks for watching, and tune in next week for This Week in Ames.